Your family won't save you. I know that sounds cruel, maybe even ungrateful, but I'm 90 years old, and I've lived long enough to know the difference between what we hope for and what actually happens. My name is Catherine Louise. When my husband died, I was 66. I sat in that empty house waiting for my children to step in, for someone to hold the pieces together. Nobody came. Not because they didn't love me, because love doesn't know how to carry you when you can barely stand. That was the moment I understood something nobody tells you about getting old. The people who love you most are not the ones who will keep you standing. There are 5 things, only 5, that kept me on my feet when everything else fell apart, and none of them came from anyone but me. If you're over 60 and still believe your family will catch you when you fall, please sit with me for a moment. Comment 1 if you believe family is your biggest support. Comment 0 if you think it's something else. After 65, nobody asks if you're happy. They ask if you can still get around. That's the real measure. Not your savings, not your address, not how many people call you on your birthday. It's whether you can walk to your own mailbox and back without asking for help. I learned this the hard way. But first, let me tell you about someone I knew. Her name was Eleanor. Sharp mind, beautiful laugh, the kind of woman who remembered everyone's birthday and never missed a Sunday call. At 70, Eleanor was still driving, still hosting dinners, still the center of her family. Then her knees started hurting, nothing dramatic, just stiffness in the mornings, soreness after walking. So she stopped walking, told herself she'd rest for a while, let things heal. She stopped going to the garden, stopped taking her evening stroll, stopped climbing the stairs to her bedroom, and moved to the couch downstairs instead. Within a year, Eleanor couldn't walk to her front door without holding the wall. Within 2 years, her daughter moved in, not to visit, to manage. Suddenly, Eleanor needed permission to go outside, permission to cook her own meals, permission to decide when to sleep and when to wake. Her daughter meant well. She loved her mother deeply. But love, when it takes over your choices, feels less like care and more like a cage. Eleanor once told me with tears she tried to hide, "I didn't lose my legs, Catherine. I lost my life." That story shook me, because at 75 I was heading down the same road. My knees were swollen, my lower back seized up so badly some mornings I couldn't stand straight for 10 minutes. My daughter started mentioning assisted living. Casually at first, then more seriously. I could feel the walls closing in, so I made a decision, not a dramatic one, a quiet one. I started walking, 30 minutes a day. Some days it was agony. Some days I barely made it around the block, but I kept going. I added gentle stretches. I moved my body even when my body screamed at me to stop. Not because I'm brave, because the alternative terrified me more than the pain. Now I'm 90. I walk to the grocery store. I carry my own bags. I climb my porch steps without holding the railing. Nobody drives me anywhere I don't choose to go. Nobody decides what I eat or when I sleep. That's not fitness. That's freedom. Here's what I need you to understand. Nobody takes your independence in one moment. They take it one skipped walk at a time. One morning you stay in bed a little longer. One afternoon you cancel the walk because it's raining. 1 week turns into 1 month. And then someone else is making your decisions because your body can no longer carry you to make them yourself. Your body at 80 is not a gift. It's a receipt. Every walk you take today, every stretch, every time you choose movement over comfort, that's a deposit into the only account that truly matters. Don't wait until your daughter starts researching nursing homes. Start now. Start small, but start. Everyone talks about saving more. Nobody talks about needing less. That's where real freedom lives, not in what you have, but in what you no longer depend on. Let me tell you about someone I knew well, Dorothy. She was 74 when I met her, recently widowed, sitting on nearly $800,000 in savings. By most standards, she was comfortable, more than comfortable, but Dorothy lived in a 4-bedroom house she'd shared with her husband for 35 years. 2 cars in the garage, one she never drove, a yard that cost her $400 a month to maintain, insurance, taxes, repairs. The bills never stopped. Within 3 years, Dorothy's savings were bleeding, not because she was reckless, because her life was too big for one person. Her children noticed. First came suggestions, then came help, then came control. Her son started managing her accounts. Her daughter began reviewing her spending. Dorothy once called me, voice shaking, and said, "I have more money than most people my age, and I still can't buy a coat without someone asking if I need it." That's the trap. When your life costs too much to maintain alone, other people step in, and once they step in, they don't step out. You trade comfort for control, and you don't even realize it's happening until someone else is signing your checks. When my husband Richard died, I looked around our house and saw a life built for 2, 4 bedrooms, a dining table that seated 8, a garage with tools he'd never use again. I could have stayed. I could have held on to every room, every memory, every piece of furniture that smelled like him. But I knew what staying would cost me. Not just money, independence. So I sold the house, bought a small 1-story place, 2 bedrooms, a little kitchen, a porch where I drink my coffee. I gave away the second car. I started cooking simple meals, nothing fancy, just enough. My grocery bill dropped by half. My stress dropped even more. People thought I was downsizing out of sadness. I was downsizing into freedom, because here's what nobody tells you about money after 65. It's not about how much you have. It's about how little you need. When your expenses are small, nobody has leverage over you. Nobody can say, "Mom, maybe you should let us help manage things." Nobody can use your own money as a reason to make your decisions. I've watched women my age cling to houses they can't maintain, cars they can't afford, lifestyles that slowly drain everything they saved. And I've watched the quiet shift that follows, from independent woman to someone else's responsibility. You don't have to give up joy. You don't have to live like a monk, but ask yourself honestly, how much of what you own actually serves you, and how much of it owns you? Money doesn't make you free. Needing less does. That's not poverty, that's power. Comment 1 if you think having more money means more freedom. Comment 0 if you believe needing less is the real secret. How many people do you know who say, "I'll start taking care of myself next year"? How many of them are still saying it 10 years later? After 60, your body stops giving second chances. It doesn't warn you twice. It warns you once, quietly, and if you don't listen, it simply stops cooperating. Let me tell you about someone. His name was Tom. Good man, kind heart, the type who'd fix your fence without being asked. Tom was 68 when his doctor told him his blood sugar was climbing. Nothing urgent yet, just a yellow light. Tom nodded, said he'd cut back on sweets, maybe walk a little more. He didn't. At 70, the yellow light turned red. Type 2 diabetes, late stage, high blood pressure that needed 3 medications to control. His mornings became a pharmacy routine, 7 pills before breakfast. His afternoons became waiting rooms. His evenings became early bedtimes because the medications drained him. Tom once told me something I'll never forget. He said, "Catherine, I used to run my own life. Now my prescriptions run it for me." Within 2 years, Tom couldn't drive himself to appointments. His son took over. Then his daughter started managing his diet, his schedule, his finances. Tom didn't lose his independence to age. He lost it to neglect, years of ignoring the one thing that would have kept him free. That scared me, because at 70 I wasn't much better. I ate whatever was convenient. I skipped checkups because I felt fine. I told myself the same lie everyone tells. I'm still healthy enough. But enough has an expiration date, and I decided I didn't want to find out what happens after it runs out. So I changed. Not everything at once. I started eating cleaner, more vegetables, less processed food, smaller portions. I made sleep non-negotiable. 8 hours, no exceptions, no late-night television. I scheduled checkups every 6 months and actually showed up. I treated my body not like something that owed me, but like something I owed everything to. Now I'm 90. I don't take daily medication. My blood pressure is normal. My doctor says I'm in better shape than most people 15 years younger. That's not luck. That's not genetics. That's 20 years of showing up for myself when it would have been easier not to. Here's what I need you to hear. Your health at 80 is not a lottery. It's a construction project. Every meal is a brick. Every walk is a beam. Every checkup is an inspection. You're building the house you'll live in for the rest of your life, and nobody else is holding the hammer. I've watched people pray for good health while eating themselves into hospitals. I've watched people blame genetics while ignoring every warning sign their body gave them. And I've watched the lucky few who decided, one ordinary Tuesday, that they were done gambling with the only body they'd ever get. You don't need a gym membership. You don't need a personal trainer. You need a decision, one decision made today, repeated tomorrow, and the day after that. Health after 70 isn't luck. It's a receipt for every choice you made or didn't make at 60. The morning after Richard died, I woke up to silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that presses against your chest until you can't tell if you're breathing or just pretending to. For 40 years, the first sound of my day was him clearing his throat in the kitchen. That morning, I heard the clock on the wall, ticking. I'd never noticed it before. 40 years in that house, and I heard it for the first time the day he was gone. Grief doesn't knock. It moves in, sets its bags down in every room, sits at the table where your husband used to sit, sleeps on his side of the bed. And if you let it, it starts answering the door for you. It speaks for you. It decides for you. Until one day, people stop saying, "She lost her husband," and start saying, "She's never been the same." Let me tell you about someone. Virginia. We were friends for over 30 years. When her husband passed, something in Virginia switched off. She stopped going to church, stopped calling friends, stopped cooking, lived on toast and canned soup for months. Her garden, the one she'd spent 20 years tending, turned brown. Her children visited more at first, then less, because every conversation was the same sadness, the same silence, the same woman sitting in the same chair, looking at the same empty doorway. 3 years after her husband died, Virginia was still alive, but she wasn't living. She existed in what I can only describe as permanent suspension, not moving forward, not falling apart, just frozen in the worst moment of her life. Her daughter once whispered to me, "I lost my father and my mother on the same day. It just took Mom longer to stop moving." That could have been me. After Richard, I wanted to stop. Every part of me wanted to close the curtains, turn off the phone, and disappear into the quiet. The grief was so heavy some mornings I couldn't lift my arms to make coffee. But somewhere inside, a small voice said, "If you stop now, you'll never start again." So the next morning, I walked. Not because I wanted to, because I was terrified of what would happen if I didn't. I made breakfast, not because I was hungry, because routine was the only rope I had. I called a friend, not because I had anything to say, because silence was becoming too comfortable. I grieved. God knows I grieved. I still grieve. Some Sundays I set 2 cups on the table before I catch myself. But I made a promise to myself early on. I would carry the grief, but I would not let the grief carry me. There's a difference. One means you're still walking. The other means you've given the grief your legs. Grief is a visitor. If you give it a chair, it stays. If you give it the whole house, it becomes you. You're allowed to be broken for a while, but don't build a home inside the brokenness. The world still needs you upright. After 60, the world starts making decisions for you, slowly, quietly, lovingly. And that's the most dangerous kind, because when someone takes your freedom with cruelty, you fight back. But when they take it with concern, you thank them for it. It starts small. "Mom, maybe you shouldn't drive at night anymore." "Mom, let me handle the bills. It's easier for everyone." "Mom, we found a lovely place just 20 minutes from us. You'd have company." Every sentence wrapped in love. Every sentence one step closer to a life someone else designed for you. Let me tell you about someone. Helen, sweetest woman you'd ever meet, spent her whole life making everyone else comfortable. Her husband chose the house. Her children chose the vacations. When her grandchildren grew up, they chose her retirement, a lovely facility with activities and nurses and a garden she never asked for. When I visited Helen there, I asked her a simple question. "Helen, what do you want?" She stared at me, not because she didn't hear me, because she'd never been asked, and worse, she didn't know the answer. 81 years old, and she'd never once decided what she wanted for herself. That's not aging, that's erasure. I almost became Helen. When Richard died, my daughter Sarah started calling daily, then twice daily. Then she drove over uninvited, checked my fridge, reorganized my medications, and one Sunday afternoon she sat across from me and said, "Mom, I've been looking into a place. It's beautiful, safe. You wouldn't have to worry about anything." I looked at her. I love my daughter more than my own heartbeat. But in that moment, I saw the beginning of the end. Not of my life, of myself. If I said yes to the facility, I'd be saying yes to someone else choosing my mornings, my meals, my schedule, my company. I'd be trading independence for comfort. And comfort, when it's chosen for you, is just a prettier word for captivity. So I said no. Not with anger, not with argument. I simply said, "Sarah, I know you love me, and I know you're scared, but I'm not ready to let someone else live my life for me. Not yet, maybe not ever." She cried. I held her hand. But I didn't change my mind. That was 14 years ago. I'm still in my house, still making my own coffee, still deciding when to sleep and when to wake and what to eat and who to see. Not because I'm stubborn, because I know who I am. I know what matters to me: independence, my own space, the right to make my own mistakes. And when you know that about yourself, clearly and deeply, it becomes very hard for anyone to take it away. Here's what I want you to understand. The most dangerous thing about getting old isn't losing your body, it's losing your voice and not even noticing. Don't wait until someone else is deciding your days. Decide now who you are, what you need, and what you will not surrender, because once you forget, nobody will remind you. I want to tell you something about this morning. I woke up at 6, not because anyone told me to, not because a nurse opened my curtains, not because a schedule on someone else's clipboard said it was time. I woke up because my body was ready and the sun was coming through the window, and I wanted coffee. I walked to my kitchen, barefoot, on cold tile, filled the kettle, stood there in the quiet, listening to the water heat. No one asking if I'd taken my pills, no one checking if I'd eaten, no one calling to see if I was still alive. Just me, my kitchen, and a morning that belonged entirely to me. That's freedom, not a mansion, not $1 million, not a family that calls every day. Freedom is a Tuesday morning where every choice is yours. The coffee, the chair, the silence, the decision to do absolutely nothing if that's what your heart needs. I didn't always have this. There were years when I thought freedom meant having enough money. Years when I thought it meant having people around. Years when I thought it meant being healthy enough to travel. Those things matter. But none of them are freedom. Freedom is knowing that the life you're living is the one you chose, not the one someone chose for you. I've shared 5 things with you today: your body, your expenses, your health, your ability to carry grief without breaking, and your sense of self. These aren't luxuries, they're pillars. Knock one down and you can still stand. Knock 2 down and you start to lean. Knock all 5 down and someone else will be deciding how you spend the rest of your days. But here's the part nobody says out loud. It doesn't matter how many you've lost. It matters how many you start rebuilding today, whether you're 60 and just starting to think about this, or 70 and already feeling the walls close in, or 80 and wondering if it's too late, or 90 like me, still patching cracks and finding new ones. It's not too late. It was never too late. Today's discipline is tomorrow's freedom. The walk you take this afternoon matters. The bill you cut this week matters. The doctor's appointment you've been avoiding, make it. The conversation with yourself about who you are and what you need, have it. Not tomorrow, today. Your family loves you. I believe that. But love is not a plan. Love doesn't know how to carry you when your knees give out. Love doesn't pay your bills when the savings run dry. Love doesn't grieve for you, decide for you, or get up in the morning for you. Only you can do that. Only you ever could. I'm still here, still walking, still cooking my own meals, still choosing my own mornings. And if you want to sit with me again, I'll be here, on my porch, with my coffee, with the door open. Take care of yourself. Take care of your freedom, and never forget, you're not too old to save your own life. If this meant something to you, leave a like and subscribe. Not for me, but for the next woman who needs to hear this. Comment 1 if you're ready to start building your own pillars. Comment 0 if you think it's too late.